It was empty, a big nothing. Those are the words that NDP leader Jagmeet Singh used to describe the speech from the throne that took place earlier today, delivered by Governor General Mary Simon. The speech focused on 4 key areas: COVID relief, climate change, reconciliation, and the economy in broad strokes. There's lots of details in there, or some details, maybe is a more fair assessment. But none of the ideas presented struck an orange chord. So will the NDP support the Liberal agenda if it comes to a vote? Again, it would be a confidence motion. Let's find out. Joining me now is NDP leader Jagmeet Singh. Mr. Singh, always good to have you back on the program. Let's start with the basics. You've heard the speech from the throne. Will the NDP, if it comes to a vote, vote for or against the speech?
Well, first off, you're right. It's not clear if it's going to come to a vote or not. We are going to make that decision and sit down as a team. But I can say 2 things. One is we've told the Liberals not to take our support for granted. And what we've seen so far after hearing the throne speech is a throne speech that doesn't look like it's one that indicates a willingness to work together with us. Things are missing in terms of key things to deal with what people are going through right now. We know that we've got to fight the climate crisis. Fossil fuel subsidies are a major concern. At COP26, this came up. The Liberals have completely ignored that. It's not in the throne speech. Health, they talk about building a healthier Canada. Well, the key thing we need for health is increasing the transfers to provinces, something that all provinces agree with, something we agree with. That's not in there. Pharmacare, dental care, things that were in the throne speech in the past are no longer in this throne speech at all. So it's clear to me that this is not a speech that is indicating a desire to work together, and it looks to me like they have run out of ideas and out of steam.
Okay, now you know that they may not care if you support it because the Bloc Québécois have already said they will support it. They say there's so little details here, we don't want to not support this. But let's talk about climate because that's an issue. They say they're going to put a cap on oil and gas emissions. They say they're going to reduce those. They have a net zero plan by 2050. They, in terms of oil and gas subsidies, they say they're going to get rid of those. I know it's not mentioned in the speech from the throne, but you and I both know the speech from the throne is very high level, it's not very detailed. So what is the make or break issue in this speech from the throne? The lack of pharmacare, the lack of detail, what was it?
Well, really on the fighting the climate crisis, which we've seen right now, the impacts of it in my province of British Columbia, we're seeing the devastation of the climate crisis. One of the most important things that we can do concretely right now, this Liberal government has talked about reducing emissions for the past 6 years and has missed every single target. One concrete thing they can do is to get rid of the fossil fuel subsidies, because not only is it subsidizing or incentivizing the fossil fuel sector, it's money that could go towards a just transition, a plan for workers. It's money that could go towards making sure we actually invest in renewable energy. So it's duly a negative approach. And that's why we want to see something concrete and specific. We don't need the 10-point detailed plan, but we do need to see the vision. And the fact that they don't have that, to me, really speaks to a lack of vision and a lack of commitment to really tackle what is one of the biggest crises we're up against.
Again, they look like they have the support of the Bloc, so they may not need NDP support. Does that undermine your leverage to get what you may want?
Not at all. We know that what we've used in the past is every time a bill comes forward, the Liberals are going to need support on passing bills. And we've used those opportunities to make those bills better, to negotiate, to get more help to Canadians, and we'll do the same thing. If the Liberals want to work with us to deliver help to Canadians, we're there. If they're going to cut the help that people need, then they can go to the Conservatives or to the Bloc, as they've done in the past, and they can rely on their support. We've said they should not take our support for granted, and that we are prepared to make this government, this parliament, work for people. We respect that Canadians chose a minority government. We want to make that minority government work in the interest of Canadians.
There's 4 pieces of legislation they say they want done before the holiday. 10-day paid sick leave for federally regulated workers, you support that. Banning conversion therapy, you support that. Protecting healthcare workers, you support that. Then reduced pandemic supports. The Conservatives and the Bloc seems to support that, you don't. So is that fair to say that you're ready to help them, at least on 3 out of these 4, fast-track this legislation before the new year?
The way you've outlined it, those are 3 bills that we absolutely support, you're right. And just to go beyond that, in fact, the paid sick leave is something that we were the ones that pushed for. 22 times over the past 18 months, we said that paid sick leave need to be expanded. And 22 times, Mr. Trudeau said no. And then in the middle of the campaign, finally said yes. 18 months after Canadians needed this support, he's finally agreed. So it's pretty late, but absolutely, we would pass this legislation. We believe in it, protecting healthcare workers and making sure we ban conversion therapy. These are all things that we agree with, and we would support passing quickly, rapidly through the House. The reduced pandemic supports is something we're opposed to, given that there's no alternative. There's no improved EI that actually works for Canadians that are self-employed or that don't get coverage right now with EI. And without having other supports in place, this is going to leave a lot of people high and dry, and we don't believe that's the right way to go. We want to see supports that are there for people in need.
Just real quick, inflation is at an 18-year high. What is one proposal that you would pitch to fight inflation and the high cost of living?
Well, the number one driver of that from what we're seeing is the high cost of housing. And so for housing, there's two approaches. One, we need to get at the speculation that's driving up the cost of housing, the property flipping, the foreign investment. So we need to tackle that. And the second piece would be to invest more money in building homes that are within people's budgets, using more federal funds to invest in those homes, whether that's cooperative housing, not-for-profit housing. We need to build more homes.
Yeah, supply for sure. There's a lag on that that may not help the gas and the groceries, but you're right, that may be a longer-term solution on housing. Mr. Singh, I got to leave it there today, but lots of work ahead as the 44th Parliament really kicks off the heart of it, post speech from the throne, and great to have you on the program, Mr. Singh.
Thanks so much.